Hey, so I heard this weird story the other day, and I can't stop thinking about it. It's called The Forgotten Password. It's set just a little bit in the future, where people use brain chips to store their memories. And, well, this guy's chip crashes, and things get real strange from there. The morning began like every other. Not with an alarm, but with the quiet whisper of the chip embedded behind his left ear. "Good morning, Elliot," it said. "Today is Tuesday, August 6th, 2035. You have 3 meetings and 1 unread memory." Elliot blinked away the sleep and stared at the ceiling, confused. Unread memory? He sat up. The chip usually sorted his memories with eerie precision. Meetings, passwords, loved ones' names, all organized and ready for retrieval. But this one seemed orphaned, floating. "Play it," he said aloud. Nothing happened. "Play the memory," he repeated. Still silence. Not even the usual click or static, just silence. The kind that made him feel like he was speaking into a void that no longer understood human language. The trouble started during breakfast. He reached for his coffee mug and couldn't remember how hot coffee felt. He brought it to his lips cautiously, like it might burn or bite or explode. "What does coffee taste like?" he muttered. A response flashed in his mind, data from the chip, but it came scrambled. Bitter, warm, love? Childhood? Acrid fog? It wasn't language. It was like remembering a dream through someone else's mouth. He set the cup down. It sloshed. He forgot the word for slosh. He went to work, or tried to. The train station looked familiar but wrong. He stood at the turnstile and stared at it like it was a puzzle box. "Scan your wrist," said a voice behind him. He looked down. His wrist was bare. No chip, no implant, nothing. Then he felt a flicker of heat behind his left ear. Something was wrong. Something was burning. By the time he got home, the apartment felt alien. His dog didn't recognize him, or maybe it did, but he didn't recognize the dog. Its name hovered just out of reach, like a dream he once told someone on a rainy day. He looked in the mirror. His face stared back like a photograph aged in vinegar. His eyes weren't his eyes. They were borrowed. Or maybe stolen. At exactly 7:07 p.m., the chip rebooted. Elliot collapsed to the floor, convulsing, whispering names that weren't his. He remembered cities he'd never visited, lovers he'd never kissed, lives he'd never lived. And then silence. A voice inside him said, "Please enter your password to restore access to memory archives." A prompt glowed softly behind his eyelids. He tried everything. His mother's maiden name, his first pet, the name of the street he grew up on, his ex-girlfriend's birthday, the word sunset in all lowercase. Nothing worked. "Password incorrect," said the voice. 3 attempts remaining. He spent the next 3 days wandering the city, not as a man, but as a ghost trying to remember who he had once haunted. The buildings stretched up and inward. The air shimmered with digital signals he couldn't access. Billboards blinked with faces he half recognized, maybe from dreams, maybe from life. He started to lose time. He'd walk into a park and find himself on a rooftop, enter a cafe and emerge from a sewer. People looked at him like he was glitching, and maybe he was. A walking crash report. He met someone on the 4th day. Her name was Kala, or at least that's what she told him. Her voice shimmered with static, like she too was from another life, or perhaps another firmware update. "I know what's happening to you," she said. They sat in a diner that smelled like rust and peppermint. Her eyes were silver where they should have been white. Your chip wasn't supposed to reboot. They burn out, but they're not meant to reset. "Why did mine?" he asked. Kala leaned in. "Because you asked it to." Elliot blinked. The world tilted sideways. "You told it to forget," she said. "The password, your life, your name. You wanted a reset, clean slate. The problem is, the chip only forgets what you tell it to. It wiped your archive, but left the index." "The index," he said. "Like the table of contents. You can see the chapter titles, but all the pages are gone." "And the password?" "Was the final safeguard," she said. "One word, one key to lock it all away." He whispered, "Why would I do that?" Kala smiled, tragically. "Because forgetting was the only way you could survive." She gave him a note. A crumpled, handwritten thing. Actual ink. No scan code. No digital imprint. On it, a single sentence. "The password is not a word. It's a choice." He read it 100 times. It never made more sense. That night, the chip spoke again. "Final attempt remaining. Please enter your password." His mind was a fog of almosts. He thought about the coffee, the dog, the mirror. He thought about Kala's eyes, the way the city folded in on itself. He thought about memory, not as data, but as story, as dream. And then something came to him. Not a word, not a phrase, but a letting go. He whispered, "I choose not to remember." The chip paused. Then, password accepted. The world shifted. He fell, not physically, but inwardly, like a tower collapsing through itself. All at once, he saw everything. The war, the accident, the loved one he'd lost. The reason he'd installed the chip in the first place, to forget the unbearable, to erase pain from the core, like formatting a hard drive with tears. He wept, not because he was sad, but because he finally knew what had been stolen, and who had stolen it. He had. The next morning, he woke to silence. No whisper, no chip, just the sound of birds. Real or not, he didn't care. The world was softer, slower. He still didn't remember his dog's name, but when it licked his hand, it didn't matter. Memories are strange like that. You don't always need to name them to feel them. Elliot smiled and poured a cup of coffee. It burned his tongue a little, and he remembered the taste. Yeah, kinda messed up, right? Imagine forgetting your whole life on purpose. Anyway, I don't know what I'd do in his place, but I guess some things are better left forgotten. Wild stuff.